welcome to From Rock to Jazz Part 6. This week is a continuation of our mini-series on autumn leaves. Now what we're going to do today is take some of the ideas that we've been working on in the previous couple weeks and just push the boundaries with them a little bit further. This is going to be our last week doing exercises on this particular piece, but I think that you'll find it quite interesting. We're going to have a look at enclosing the third, as well as extending our single note run that we've been working on. Now, in previous weeks, we had a look at the single note run on the first, second, and third degree of each chord, sticking to the scale. We're in the key of G major or E minor. Now, what that means is our first chord was our A minor 7, so we were running A, B, C, which is first, second, third. Second chord is our D7, we were running D, E, F sharp, which was same thing, first, second, major third. We did that in the lower octave, and then we pushed it up an octave, starting here, and so on. We also talked about the importance of voice leading and voicing with the chords last week too. Now, all of those are relevant, and we're going to use all of those ideas this week, but we're going to flip the single note run on its head. This is our first exercise for today. We're going to run it starting on the 5th degree, not the 1st degree. Now, what that means is we have to do one extra little mental calculation before we start. It's easy enough to know that A on an A minor 7 chord is the root or the 1. What we have to do now is go A minor 7, what's the 5th of that chord? Because that's going to be our starting note. In this case, it's an E. Now, we're going to do the same thing with this run and run it in a lower octave as well as a higher octave. So what that would look like is E as our 5th, D as our 4th, and the C still our 3rd. Same thing for the D7 chord. This time we'd be starting on the A, the G would become our 4th, and the F sharp is our 3rd, and so on. The only chord that we need to just keep an eye out for is our diminished chord. When we come across our F sharp, it's a half diminished. We're going to play a C because we have a flattened 5th in our diminished chords. So we don't want to play C sharp. We want to play C. In this case, it'd be C, B, A, 5th, 4th, 3rd. Once you've got the lower octave down, we're going to push it up an octave, which means we're going to be starting here. And so on. In a moment, the chords, like in previous weeks, are going to pop up on the screen. That's your opportunity to pause the video, have a run through doing the lower octave and then the higher octave, 5, 4, 3 for each of the chords. And then when you're ready to go, press play again and we will rejoin each other and we will continue on. All right, welcome back. Hopefully that went well. Hopefully we're seeing the notes and in relation to the chords that we're playing in both lower and the upper octaves. What we're going to do now is push that exact same run just a little bit further, and we're going to talk about enclosing the third. So what that means is we want to approach the third from both above and below. They're the two directions we have in music. We're going to keep the run exactly the same. So 5th to the 4th to the 3rd. But rather than landing immediately on the 3rd, we're going to overshoot by a semitone. In this case, it would be a B, and then come back up to the C. So is what we're going for here. Now, I think it's important just to mention this for this piece. What we want to do is not necessarily think of this as 5th, 4th, 2nd, 3rd. You can, if that's helpful to you, but something to keep in mind is the moment that we get to the D7 chord, we don't end up with the same degree structure that we did on the A minor 7 chord. And that's because we have A as the 5th, G as the 4th. The F is actually our minor 3rd, not our 2nd. And the F sharp is our major 3rd. So I find with this piece, it's easier just to focus on the 3rd. That is the note we're enclosing. And just go 5, 4, overshoot by a semitone, come back to the 3rd. That way you don't have to do any extra calculations and our focus really remains on the 3rd. And you'll get some really great jazz sounding runs with this that are really usable in lines, soloing melodies for the lot really. and then minor to major. Now, before the chords pop up on the screen, there is one other part of this song that we should have a quick chat about with regard to these enclosed thirds. And that's towards the end where we get those two chord per bar phrases. The chords are E minor 7 to A7, D minor 7 to G7, and then we get to the C7 afterwards. What that means is we get this really fluid run where we're enclosing the third the whole way through. It sounds really complete. I think it's the best part of the song and the best part of this exercise, and something that is really usable in other contexts, something that you can take and reuse. It sounds like this. So when you get to that part, just have a closer look at that, running that. You don't have to do the same fingering as me. It's best again for you to use whatever feels comfortable for you to play. I'll pop the chords up on the screen again. This time just working it in that upper octave that we've been focusing on. No need to do this in the lower octave. Doing a run by enclosing the third. And then when you're ready, press play, and we're going to have a look at the last component of today's exercise. Great, welcome back. Hopefully that was a fulfilling little run to do. Hopefully you can see how some of those ideas are going to be very usable in a whole bunch of contexts. I think it's a really great approach that isn't necessarily just thinking about scales and licks, but thinking about how to create melodies and create lines based on a chord and a particular movement around a particular chord tone. What we're going to do now to finish off is incorporate the chords that we talked about last lesson with both of these runs that we're doing today. What that means is we're going to use the voice leading and the voicing that you would have worked on in the previous lesson, and mix and match the 5-4-3 or the 5-4 enclosed 3 runs. You can do these as separate individual runs, and you can mix them back and forth, doing one and then the other throughout the one piece. This is a really great way to make those exercises that we've been working on turn into a sort of playable version of a piece, something that is both a great exercise theoretically, a good finger workout as well, but also something that's just nice to play on the instrument, and that's going to sound good if you pick it up and want to do a run through. I will have a link in the description of my version of this. Again, it's just a guide. It's not the right way to play it. Hopefully you found your own way to play it, something that you like the sound of and the feel of, and have some fun mucking around with it. Just to give you a quick example, the opening of this, we can have something like this. So you can see there that I'm just mixing back and forth a little bit. One time I'm enclosing the third, one time I'm not. You can do them in a particular order. You can also just do them freely. You can check that video out in the description. There's also the very old school looking backing track for Autumn Leaves, which will be in the description too if you want to practice just the single note runs along with a track. Thank you for joining us again on this little episode. If you've enjoyed it or you've gotten some value out of it, it is very much appreciated if you would like or subscribe. That's the way that I'm hoping to be able to make more of these videos in the future and reach more of you. I do hope that you're getting some value out of this. I hope you have some fun with it during the week. Keep me updated in the comments with how you're going or if you have any questions, and we will continue more in the future. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy playing, and we'll see you then.